Okay, everyone, welcome back. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of a handoff difficulty there, but we're back and running again. And we'll get started with the sky this month. As usual, I like to start with the big picture, and we'll talk about some of the highlights for the next 4 weeks or so. We'll spend a little time on planets and the moon. There's lots to talk about there this month. I'll talk about comets and then some suggested fall targets, and then we'll have a little time for questions as we want to going forward. Just to kick off, some sort of big news from the world of spaceflight. There is a launch expected for the Dragon X crew capsule on Saturday. So it's targeted for about 10 to 8 on Saturday night to go to the ISS. This is a routine, well, hopefully going to become a routine resupply mission for the SpaceX capsule. And this is the first time that they're going to be sending a full crew up to the ISS. They've done their full tests of the launch escape system. They've done the tests of the overall rocket. So this is the full integrated system that's supposed to supply the ISS on an ongoing basis for the next, foreseeable future. And this will be its first launch. So this is a big deal, and hopefully everything is going to go really well. Of course, that date and time is subject to scrubs and rescheduling and so on. But keep an eye on that. So that's going to be quite nice, I think, hopefully. Looking at the planets this month, we've got pretty well all of the classical planets are available at some point during the month. Mercury is visible in the morning sky for the next 2 weeks. It's a bit tricky, low in the horizon. It's not a particularly great operation, but it is there if you can get a good clear horizon and know where to look. Venus is obvious in the morning sky, starting to fade a little bit, but it's still very, very bright, magnitude minus 3.1 or so. And it's heading towards conjunction in March of 2021. So we still have a couple, 3 months to enjoy Venus in the morning sky. And it'll be starting to make its change and diving down towards the sun later in the season. Mars is still very prominent, still very obvious. I've been enjoying it. It's one of the most brightest, punchy things that you can see in the sky. It's coming through very nice. It's fading towards magnitude minus 1.1 and about 15 degrees in width by the end of the month. So every day now, as it goes by, it's going to get a little smaller. And so your best chance to view Mars is if it wasn't a month and a half ago when it was at its maximum and its brightest, well, it's tonight because it's going worse as time goes on. Jupiter and Saturn are quite close together. Hovering near Sagittarius, so they're getting closer and closer to the western horizon near sunset. But what I've been noticing lately is the gap between Jupiter and Saturn is notably getting smaller and smaller. Over this next month or so, it's going to close from 5 degrees to 2 degrees, which is really close together. And so you will, if you keep an eye on Jupiter and Saturn, you'll see Jupiter appearing to overtake Saturn. Part of that is our angle changing as we go in our orbit, but part of it is actually Jupiter lapping Saturn in its orbit is there. And at this time of year, both Neptune and Uranus are both well placed for observation in the evening sky. So what does that look like in terms of the overall pattern of the sky? So we see that, here's the sun. Whoops, wrong screen. Here's the sun. You can see Jupiter and Saturn quite close together, just past Sagittarius now. Neptune and Uranus are, as I mentioned, well placed for evening observation, and Mars is right between them roughly during the month. And then we have Mercury and Venus in the morning sky, and this is basically placed in there. Mars, just comparing it again with the last time I spoke about this was actually in May. So you can see Mars in December is going to be roughly where it was in July. So in terms of the size difference, it starts to fade. And generally speaking, when it gets down to 10 degrees and in width, that's about the mark where visible features start to become hard to perceive and hard to see. So again, the next 6 weeks or so is probably the best time we'll have to see Mars. And one of the things about the way that Mars approaches Earth, because Mars has a much more elliptical orbit than us, when it comes close to Earth during the months of sort of August, September, October, that's when it gets at its maximum closeness. Other oppositions, when it comes close to us it's much further away. So it'll be another 10, 15 years or so before it comes back as close and as good as it has been this past viewing period. And I hope everybody's had a chance to get out there with your telescopes and enjoy a bit of Mars time. In terms of where we are with light and darkness, I think everybody's noticed the time change, the discontinuity that comes with that. It's interesting from an astronomer's perspective that there's some people are rising up against the time change, and I think that would be all. I think most people who are into astronomy would appreciate that. It would make life a little bit easier for us. But as you can see right now, we're heading. Things are starting to slow down. Our total night is up to 10 hours, almost 11 hours, and we're only going to gain between now and the winter solstice. We're only going to gain another half an hour or so of night, astronomical twilight, and so on. So we're really, we're into the dark period of the year now, but it's still warm enough compared to, say, February, which is on the other side of the solstice, to get out there and do things. And certainly the past week, we've had extraordinarily excellent opportunities, and we've had great weather for observing. So I hope everybody's had a chance to do that. So stepping away a little bit from Earth, where are we in our orbit kind of thing? What are we looking at? So I've used this in the past just to sort of indicate where things are. So Sagittarius and the Milky Way, it's heading down towards the horizon, and that's the summer Milky Way is what's leaving us. And now as the Earth goes through its orbit, we're starting to see this area here outside of our galaxy. And so the number of star clusters and the Milky Way itself is you see much less of it when you look out in the night sky. And typically what we see in the autumn sky is relatively less than we see in the summer sky. So you see all the good stuff that's disappearing here with the summer sky, and what we're left with are what are called the water constellations. So if you look at the water constellations here, we have Aquarius, the water bear, we have Cetus, the whale, Pisces, the fish, and of course everyone's favorite, Capricornus, the sea goat. Everyone, of course, the famous sea goat is always there, and also Pisces austrinus, which is the southern fish. So all of these constellations are related to water. And what they have in common, of course, is that they're sparse. There's not that much to see. But there are a lot of good galaxies to be found out there, and there's also other targets that are available. But relatively speaking, there's less in terms of Messier objects and things like that to see here. In fact, this is where the Messier hole is right around here, which is the reason we can have a Messier marathon in March is by the time when the sun moves into this part of the sky, it's not obscuring any Messier objects, which allows us an opportunity in one night during the couple of weeks in March to observe all of the Messier objects because they're not obscured by the sun. And the reason that happens is there's a hole here, the Messier hole, which has no Messier objects in it, and so that allows, so there's nothing being obscured there. But so looking a little bit to the east, the autumn sky, as I mentioned, doesn't have that many things to observe, generally speaking. But if you stay up a little late now, even 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, the winter sky starts to make its appearance. And this is also part of the Milky Way. And we see, things like the Pleiades, the Hyades, and Orion, all very visible just a little bit later on in the evening. Talking a little bit about opportunities to see things that come together, Appulses. So November 19th is an important date because that's when we're going to have a nice meetup of the moon with Jupiter and Saturn. So as I mentioned, Jupiter and Saturn are getting very close together. They'll be about 2.5, 3 degrees apart. And then it's going to join them in a fairly tight photogenic group. That's three out of the 4 brightest things in the sky all together in one place. And hopefully we'll have some clear skies to enjoy that because that'll be quite nice. November 25th, the moon's going to be rolling below Mars. So again, Mars is still pretty prominent, -1 or so. So it's going to be a nice conjunction as well. And then on December 12th in the morning sky, we're going to have the moon passing very near Venus. And in fact, in some parts of North America, it will be actually occulted by the moon. That's not going to be happening down here in southern Ontario, but it will be very close. So you can keep that in mind. And then on December 21st, and this is kind of for the next sky this month, but this is important. This is really interesting to me. So Jupiter and Saturn, as they continue to get closer and closer together, from Earth's perspective, they're going to be the closest they've been since 1623, which is really close and probably within the same field of view of a single eyepiece. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, those are two very bright planets. So this is not it's not something like when Venus and Uranus get together where you can barely see Uranus and Venus is, in the whole show. Here are two of the very bright photogenic planets kind of slugging it out. So that's a bit of a Christmas special, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that next month. Looking at our new neighbor, the moon. So we've got new moon is coming up this weekend. So that's very close to that. So we're basically in prime time deep sky object season right now. First quarter, November 21st. November 23rd is straight wall night. So if anybody wants to catch the straight wall on the moon, that's the night when it should be best illuminated. And then November 30th, we have the full moon, which is the Stellekazan moon, which is apparently the moon where you put your canoes in the woods for the winter. So there you go, everyone. I didn't know that before I prepared for this, and now everyone else does too. One of the things that you can see, though, is a penumbral lunar eclipse, which is the fourth lunar eclipse of 2020, which is something pretty special. And I'll just show that off a little bit here. So this is one of my favorite sites, timeanddate.com. And so this penumbral eclipse, normally a penumbral lunar eclipse isn't that exciting because it's not total. So you don't get the whole changing color of the moon and all of that stuff going on. But this is going to be pretty deep. So this animation here shows that penumbra eclipse. And you see here it's hitting the Earth's penumbra. There's the umbra coming in. But you see how close it's getting to the umbra. So that this stage right about here near mid-eclipse, that's obvious and really easy to notice that one half of the moon will be duskier. It will be dimmer than the front half of the moon, than the moon normally is. And then it's going to leave it. And roughly when it gets about this far away from the umbra, then it's hard to tell whether it's in eclipse or not. But there's definitely going to be a lunar eclipse. It will be visible. Not super impressive, but if you're out that morning and you're able to take a look at it, then that is certainly a good opportunity. The timing for that, the maximum is around 4:42 a.m., which isn't too bad. And the best visibility for a penumbral eclipse like this is roughly a half an hour on either side of that midpoint or that maximum point for that penumbral eclipse. And then we've got our last quarter coming up on December 7th. Comets. Let's talk about comets. So as usual, I've checked out the really good website, cobs.si, which allows you to do observing planning for comets. It allows you to search for visible comets from your neighborhood, finder charts, magnitudes, and everything else like that. This month, there's one. So that's really good and observable, which is 2020 M3 Atlas. And this is a recent light curve of the comet. So you can see these are observations that are reported by astronomers all over the world. And they're telling us roughly where this comet fits in here. So you can see it's hovering just between 7 and 8th magnitude, which is reasonably bright for a comet. And that's pretty current as of Tuesday. Now, the great thing about this comet is just how easy it is to find. So for those of you who remember last summer when we were looking for Neowise, it was kind of in the north and it was kind of near the sun and all that other stuff. This comet is basically hiding out right near Orion's belt. And some of our crack team of observers that go to Longsu reported seeing this over the weekend. And if anybody wanted to chat it up in the comments and just note how well it showed up, that would be very interesting. But certainly it should be just right off Orion's belt. It should be visible in binoculars in a good dark sky, or maybe you need a telescope from Toronto. But certainly from a find the comet perspective, it doesn't get much easier than that. One of the most notable and visible asterisms in the sky, and it's hanging out right beside it. Looking beyond the comets to meteors. So meteors are related to comets. Often meteors used to be comets, and so forth. We have a big meteor shower coming up, which is the Geminids. It's peaking on Sunday, December 13th. And The maximum forecast, so this is a shower that has a long lead up, and then it has a very sharp peak, and then it quits really quickly. So the good news is the peak year is happening right over North America, and the better news is that it's the lunar aspect is really good, because the new moon was on December 7th, so the moon will not interfere with this at all. So there's up to 150 meteors per minute, or per hour, I should say, possible. It's roughly 2 per minute, although they can be bursty, so you might have 3 or 4 1 minute, and then you might have 5 minutes without any. And the thing that's interesting about the Geminids, they're about 40% slower than the Perseids. So if you're comparing them with the Perseids experience in the summer, you should see them take a little bit more time to come across the sky. Of course, it will still be, oh, look at that. It'll still be too late for the person who's standing beside you to see what you just saw. That doesn't change. But what it should mean is they should be a little bit more majestic, a little bit perhaps easier for you to observe where they're coming from, and their radiant, and some of the other things. There's also a number of other minor showers that are active this month, and you can look on the International Meteor Organization website. All right, targets recommended. Well, certainly Mars, it's a high recommendation. It almost feels like it's a last chance, because it won't be this good again for quite a while. So get out there and get another look at Mars if you can. This is a great time of year to have a look at Uranus and Neptune, and I usually like to do both of them in the same night, because there's a compare and contrast thing that you can do, where you can see Uranus is a little bit more obviously a disk. It's got that light blue color, and then you go to Neptune, it's a bit smaller, but the blue is a lot more prominent, and it shines through a little bit better. So it's kind of cool to compare those two planets together, and I would certainly recommend it. There are a number of globular clusters in the watery part of the sky. So M30, M2, and M72, they're all down there in Capricornus and Aquarius. That's a good chance to see those Messier objects as right now. And if you're looking for targets in the southern sky, that's some of the better ones. Of course, M31 and M33, the Andromeda and Triangulum galaxies, although they've kind of we've been observed for a while, they're actually, when the sun sets now, they're pretty well straight up, so they're a really good opportunity now to take pictures of them, and of course to observe them the best you can. My favorites, the Pleiades and Hyades, are also very prominent, and there's some good galaxies available. And we also have the double stars that are available for us right now. So taking a look at the double star catalog here that has been prepared by none other than our own Blake Nancarroll, there are a lot of good double stars available in the fall-autumn season here. The different parts of the sky, a few in Andromeda, Pisces, Cetus, and also Polaris is one of those as well. Of course, you can see that pretty well any time of the year. Lots of variety here in terms of magnitude, and opportunities for you to award your double star certificate. Now, as a lot of people know here, I'm a fan of occultations, and I wanted to share with you an excellent occultation opportunity that we have coming up. So when we're looking for an occultation opportunity, we're looking for a number of different things. So we're looking for, is it a reasonable magnitude that you can pull in with your telescope? This one for Monday is magnitude 9.6, which is really good. Is it reasonably high so that it won't be suffering from extinction? It will be fairly clear. 63 degrees up, that's really good. Is it easy to find? It's in Taurus, and the location here is pretty straightforward because if I look at the finder chart here, this is Taurus here, and you can see that's Aldebaran there, and it's right off of the lower horn of the bull here is where the occultation is going to occur. So that's also excellent. So the location is great. The timing is good too, because it's a little bit after midnight, but it's not so late in the day that it's going to cause problems. So that's excellent as well. And the duration is very long. It's a large asteroid. It's up to 12 seconds. So even if you're isn't able to take pictures at a very fast rate, you'll still have lots of time to record the occultation. There's only one missing ingredient in all of this, other than this. This is just about a perfect occultation opportunity. The only missing ingredient really is just a question of weather. And yeah, we kind of knew that, didn't we? We really did, didn't we? So we will and continue to hope for what may be better. Anyway, ISS predictions for this month. I always rely on heavensabove.com for this. So we have an excellent evening series that's beginning on November 17th. We've got events over 40 degrees height with convenient times all happening between 5 and 7 p.m. So this is a really good ISS season. So you can see here from the table, we're switching from the morning basically tonight or this morning. We've had our last pass in the morning series, and now all of these remaining passes right through to December 11th are all evening passes, and they're all between roughly 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night. It's such a nice list here. We basically have a good ISS pass pretty well every night through to December 9th, and some of the are best. So what I look for when I'm looking at an ISS pass, again, I'm looking for a nice bright magnitude like -3.8 here, -3.6. And then I'm also looking for a highest point so that the altitude is high enough that it's going to get over Toronto. Basically, the trees and the buildings and the houses and whatever get in the way. So if the pass is, starts at 10 degrees and goes to 15 degrees and 10 degrees, it's harder to spot that and less satisfying to be able to go out and quickly spot it and go, hey, I got that one, and be able to see it. So lots to choose from this month. I've highlighted here some of the good ones that are coming up. And, basically, like I say, it's a salad season for ISS passes. Here's a good example of one of the best ones, November 22nd in the evening, coming up to 83 degrees altitude at the meridian. It's going to go through Cygnus as it's setting and run right through Cassiopeia on its way to the Earth's shadow, where it's going to disappear here right around Perseus. So like I say, that's a great opportunity and a nice series of ISS passes. Some months we don't have any at all. This month we have a surplus. So there you go. And that is all I've got for tonight. I hope this presentation was enjoyable. I hope you learned a few things, and I hope it encourages you to get out there and do some observing this month. So back to you, Paul.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Fantastic presentation. You covered a lot of material. Thanks again. I know it takes a lot of time to prepare.
Sure.
All right, so let's go to questions. Blake, do we have any for Dennis?
I've been monitoring the YouTube chat. There's been a couple of comments, but I have a question for you, Dennis. Do you celebrate the anniversary on December 1st? That's a maybe.
Was that the first time I got an occultation?
No, I just wanted to remind everybody that that's the birthday of RASC, of the Royal Astronomical Society, December 1st, 1868.
Yeah. The first meeting. They probably had Zoom problems then too.
So a question that I have for you is regarding the Ophelia occultation. Did you note the rank? Do you recall what the ranking is for that? Is it high?
It's high. It's like it's 100%. It's like massive, massive footprint, and it's going straight over Toronto. Like basically the path, the predicted path is going basically from Barrie down to Lake Ontario, and we're pretty well right in the middle of it. So it's it's a very high probability event. So that plus all of the other good things about it, yeah, and it's going to rain.
Yeah. And can you clarify the date? You showed it on Monday, I think around 1 a.m. So if I have that right.
So it's Sunday night to Monday morning.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we'd had an extra day, we might have cleared the rain.
Okay. I've been corrected that it technically is not RASC's anniversary on December 1st, but that's when the Toronto Astronomical Club formed December 1st, 1868. That club, the TAC, turned into RASC in 1903. So thanks for the clarifications there. I think
Sure.
I'm just checking for any other questions. I think that's it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye now.